Today's gospel reading comes out of the 16th chapter of Luke, verses 19 to 31. And in today's gospel reading, there are two main characters, and Jesus is not one of those main characters. Now, Jesus tells a story in the gospel, but he is not one of the main characters of the gospel. Now, the two main characters, there is an unidentified rich man and an identified poor man by the name of Lazarus. And so what we want to do this morning is try to determine the difference between the rich man and the poor man that might appear to be obvious, and then if they share any similarities, if they have a common denominator between the two. But now let's take a look at the differences. Let's take a look at verses 19 to 21a, so this first half, 21st verse of the 16th chapter of Luke. This will show us the difference. Jesus said to the Pharisees, again, he kind of narrates this story. There was a rich man who dressed in purple garments and fine linen and dined sumptuously each day. And lying at his door is a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who would gladly have eaten his fill of the scraps that fell from the rich man's table. Now, clearly, there is the difference between the rich man and poor man is the difference between night and day. The rich man had a very comfortable life and existence. The poor man, Lazarus, had a life of struggle. The rich man always had a wonder. The rich man never had a wonder when I'm going to have my next meal. The poor man, Lazarus, had a wonder, am I ever going to have another meal? So the difference between the two is clear, it's distinct, and when you hear about a rich man, poor man, you can already assume what the difference is going to be. Now what we want to look at is, do they share any similarities? Now it turns out to be that what is similar to the rich man and the poor man is similar with us today. Despite the fact this story is written 2,000 years ago, we have something in common with Lazarus and the unidentified rich man. Let's take a look at verse 22 to see if we can find the common denominator between these two men, and it turns out to be us. It says, when a poor man died, he was carried away by the angels to the bosom of Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. What is the common denominator between the rich man and the poor man and all of us this morning? They died. You see, what is absolutely amazing is the rich man and the poor man, you think they were, since they were different in life, they would be different at the end of life. The rich man, despite the size of his bank account, the size of his checking account, he wasn't able to talk himself out of death, with maybe trying to write God out a real big check. And I could get out of death. What Jesus says to all of us is, guess what? Death is a part of their life, rich, poor. Death is a part of our life. We can't get out of it. Now, not to be morbid this morning, but if you keep death focused in the front of your life, you shouldn't walk around morbid. You shouldn't just hang your head and say, oh no, I'm going to die. This is horrible. And sit in a chair in the corner of the house and not move. But when you realize that death is a part of life, that should make you do what with life? Live it to the fullest. Celebrate each day that God gives you. Every day that you live is one less day that you're going to live. You know, it reminds me of the fella. He wanted to live forever, trying to figure, how can I live forever? We all want to live forever. I want to live a lot longer than I'm living right now. I want to live for years and years and years. But the older you get, you say to yourself, uh-oh. You know, the average age of a man is 74.5 years. I say to myself, ooh, I'm a lot closer to that than I was 20 years ago. So I want to kind of put on our brakes and slow it down a little bit. And if I get to that point, I want to try to figure out how can I soar well beyond that. But what I know is this, unfortunately, you can't stay here forever. That would be nice. But maybe if I thought I would live forever, then I can continue to make mountains out of molehills. I continue to have interaction negatively with family members and friends. If I thought I could live forever, then I could waste today because I would have many more to come. This fellow wanted to live forever. In his house, he had one room that didn't have any windows, only one door. The door to enter the room was the same door he would use to get out of the room. He came up with what he thought was an ingenious idea. He got himself a chair and some duct tape. He entered the room, put the chair in the center of the room, closed the door, and he used the duct tape to seal off any cracks of the jamming of the door itself. And he put some duct tape around the threshold at the bottom of the door, right next to the floor, to seal off any way that negative vibes can get into that room. He looked for cracks in the plaster. He found some cracks in the plaster. He ripped off duct tape and put them over the cracks of the plaster. Then he sat in a chair and he thought to himself, he successfully sealed out death. There's no way death could get into his room. Now he could live forever. A couple days went by and his family wondered, what's going on? We don't hear any noise coming out of that room. What's he up to in there? He didn't take any magazines. What's he doing in there? So he knocked on the door. He didn't answer. They tried again. He still didn't answer. Finally, they broke the door down. He's sitting on the chair and he's dead. Big question is, how did death get into the room? He thought he successfully sealed out death, but somehow he died. How did he die? Now you might think he suffocated. That could be one. But what he actually did is, instead of sealing out death, he sealed in death. Because part of our living experience, we live and we die at exactly the same time. You're here, your nails, toenails, fingernails, are nothing more than dead corpuscles. And so they form your hair and your nails. So when you look at your nails, you comb your hair, cut your hair, that is a sign of your mortality. God is saying, look, you're dying. What I find amazing is this: whenever we do a baptism, whenever you see a little baby just born, and you take a look at a little baby, although their toes and their fingers are extremely small, but the end of those small toes and fingers are what? Nails. And every baby is born with a certain amount of hair. Some don't have any hair. Some are born with a lot of hair. But what does that mean? The very moment that baby is conceived, as the baby travels through the process of gestation before it is born, it is beginning the living process and the dying process as well. Because it is born with the marks of its dying, and nails and hair. You see, today is September 29th, 2019. What's so special about today? Does anyone know? Exactly right. This is the only time in your entire life, it's never going to happen again, the only time you're going to live September the 29th, 2019. You'll never do it again. I'm looking forward to it. I've done pretty good so far. I don't know what the rest of the day holds. I've never done it before, so I'm probably going to make a few mistakes. Did you wake up this morning, when your alarm went off, or however you got up, did you jump out of bed? Did you spring to your feet and say, hey, I got another day of life. This is beautiful. Did you run around the house and yelling and screaming at your wife or husband and kids and say, guess what, I'm alive? They probably told you not for long. But it's a source of celebration. When your alarm clock goes off, that's a moment of opportunity. You should say to yourself, oh, I hear the alarm clock. I open up my eyes. I'm still alive. I made it through the night. This is the only time in my life I'm going to live September the 29th, 2019. I look forward to it. Because what I know is this. From the rich man and the poor man, 22nd verse, 16th chapter of Luke, we are all the same. Now, we're different here in the face of this earth. We all look different. We all have different assets, different size homes, different amounts of education. But our common denominator among those two and us is death. We cannot escape it. That means what? It's a simple little message. I'm dying, you're dying. Looking at my nails and my hair, it's the mark that I'm dying, you're dying. So what am I going to do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? Live it to the fullest. Celebrate your life. Don't make mountains out of molehills. If you have a wall or some kind of fence that divides you from a loved one, somehow was erected years ago, get rid of it. Take it down. You don't have the luxury of having a vision with someone you love in your life. You don't have the luxury of saying, I'll rectify that bad situation tomorrow, because for you it might not come. One day's for certain. There'll be a day when it won't come. Enjoy your life. Celebrate your life. Live it to the fullest. Because every day, as you've heard before many times, I'm sure, but it is so true, every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present.